My mom is dating my ex, the ultimate family betrayal. I always knew my family liked to pretend everything was fine, even when it wasn't, but nothing prepared me for the betrayal sitting right in front of me. It started when my mom suddenly became busy every weekend, dressing nicer, acting younger, smiling at her phone like she was living a double life. I thought she finally found happiness after years of loneliness, so I didn't question it. Not until I noticed how nervous she got every time I walked into the room. The truth hit me at a family dinner when she slipped and mentioned a restaurant I hadn't been to in years. The same one my ex used to take me to. The one tied to every memory I tried to forget. Something in her tone felt wrong, too familiar, too connected to a part of my life she never cared about before. And then I found out the reason. The man she was seeing, the one she kept describing as comforting and mature, was my ex. The same ex who broke me, who cheated, who left me feeling like I wasn't enough. The same ex she once told me to block forever. My mom didn't tell me herself. I pieced it together from her schedule, the places she visited, the changes in how she spoke. She had been dating him behind my back, pretending it was harmless, pretending I wouldn't eventually notice. The worst part wasn't that she chose him. It was that she chose him knowing exactly what he did to me. And as I sat there at dinner, realizing everyone else already knew except me, my mom finally looked at me with a face that wasn't apologetic. It was defensive. That was when I understood. She wasn't hiding it because she felt guilty. She was hiding it because she knew I'd never approve. When I woke up the next morning after that dinner, I honestly expected the shock to wear off. I thought maybe I had exaggerated the signs, or maybe my mom wasn't actually dating him, and I was forcing pieces to fit because I was hurt. But the guilt never came. The confusion never softened. Instead, everything that felt wrong the night before felt even more deliberate in the daylight. My mom moved around the house like nothing happened. She hummed while making coffee. She opened all the blinds like she was starting a beautiful new chapter. And she avoided looking directly at me, which was the real confirmation. People who aren't guilty meet your eyes. People who know they crossed a line suddenly pretend the kitchen counter is fascinating. I sat at the table watching her, realizing she wasn't carrying herself like someone ashamed. She was carrying herself like someone who believed she deserved this happiness more than I deserved basic loyalty. Every movement told me she had already justified it to herself. Maybe she convinced herself I was over him. Maybe she decided my feelings weren't valid enough to stop her. Or maybe, and this was what stung the most, maybe she believed her desires mattered more than my past. As the day went on, I started noticing details I had ignored. The new perfume she wore that wasn't her style at all. The necklace I thought she bought for herself, which actually looked suspiciously like the one my ex once gifted me. The way she suddenly obsessed over skincare, routines she used to laugh at, but now swore were important for confidence. Everything pointed to one ugly truth. She had been preparing for him long before I caught on. And I kept replaying the timeline. The breakup, the months I spent crying alone, the nights I told her everything he put me through, the way she comforted me like she hated him as much as I did. But somewhere in all of that, she made space for him, not as the man who hurt her daughter, but as the man she wanted for herself. That realization felt like someone twisting a knife slowly, making sure I understood the betrayal wasn't an accident. It was a choice. My siblings knew too. That part shocked me more than anything. Apparently, they thought I would overreact, so they all agreed it was better if I didn't know until it was serious. They treated my past relationship like a teenage phase, a temporary inconvenience, something that shouldn't matter anymore. But trauma doesn't expire. Betrayal doesn't fade just because the calendar flips. And the disrespect didn't come from my ex, it came from the people I grew up with. When my mom finally left the house that afternoon, dressed like she was auditioning for a new life, I decided I needed answers. Not from her, but from myself. I needed to know why this impacted me so deeply, beyond the obvious. And I realized it wasn't about him. It was never about him. It was about her. It was about watching the one person who was supposed to protect me decide I was an acceptable sacrifice. Days passed before she finally admitted everything. Not because she wanted to be honest, but because hiding it became inconvenient. She said she didn't think it was that big of a deal. She said my breakup was old news. She insisted she deserved to be happy. She framed herself as the victim of circumstances instead of the creator of them. It was unbelievable how quickly she turned my pain into her justification. Happiness built on someone else's wounds isn't happiness, it's selfishness wrapped in denial. And she wore it proudly. When my ex entered the picture publicly, everything got worse. He acted like we were strangers. He acted like our history didn't exist. He acted like dating my mom was somehow mature, as if it proved he had grown. But the truth was simple. He wasn't dating her because he loved her. He was dating her because he loved the power, the validation, the twisted satisfaction of knowing he still had access to my life, just from a different angle. People talk about betrayal like it's a single moment. But betrayal, real betrayal, happens quietly at first. It builds. It fills in the cracks. It becomes normal before you even see the shape of it. And when it finally reveals itself, it's already too big to handle gently. For weeks, I kept trying to decide what to do. Should I cut her off completely? Should I confront him? Should I pretend to be okay for the sake of family peace? Every option felt wrong, like choosing the least painful way to break my own heart. But the more I watched them together, the more I realized I didn't need to explode or scream or fight. I just needed to step out of a system that didn't treat me like family. The turning point came during another dinner, the one where my mom tried to make everything seem normal again. She laughed too loudly. She touched his arm too often. She acted like she needed to prove their relationship was healthy and pure. When everyone at the table felt the tension thick enough to chew, my siblings tried to act casual, but their discomfort slipped out in every sideways glance. Nobody wanted to be there, but nobody wanted to admit it. And that was when it clicked. I wasn't the problem. They were. I finished my meal silently, stood up, and realized I didn't owe them an argument. I didn't owe them understanding. I didn't owe them calmness or patience or forgiveness. I owed myself the dignity they refused to give me. So I made the choice they never expected. I walked away from the table, from the relationship, from the idea I had of who my mom was. Not to punish her, not to make a scene, but because staying would teach her she could betray me and still keep me. Leaving wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, it wasn't emotional, it was necessary. And for the first time in months, I felt free.